Your boy Dallas. Dallas, we hate you.
And we are live, as always, all about the Birds Fantasy and Gambling Show. I'm back in the hosting chair. 1 week of Johnny. That got pushed off to the side. I'm surprised these guys didn't quit after that. It is Eagles-Dallas week. That was another great pump-up video from Johnny Uleka. You know, I know these guys are Detroit people. They just don't understand the rivalry of the Eagles and the Cowboys and how Dallas week is why we do what we do. But we got to put that rivalry aside right now, and we got to talk fantasy. We got to talk gambling. Drop your comments, anything you got to ask. Start Stidham questions, fantasy stacks you're thinking of, any gambling questions, because I'm joined by always as our experts, Jason Sullivan, Josh Gamble. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm always great because it's Eagles Cowboys week. So this is my fourth show in like 36 hours I've done. So I'm loving it and all.
Nice.
Even though I'm a Detroit guy, I can still appreciate the video of a bunch of Dallas Cowboys players getting lit up.
The video we played last night before the show, I don't know if you guys caught it, but at the beginning of it, it was Ike Reese. He was a linebacker here in the 90s for the Eagles. And he said in it, Johnny pulled a clip of him saying, when you're drafted, you are instantly taught about the rivalry between the Eagles and the Cowboys. It's just, there's nothing like it and all. So let's get started. Let's dive right in before I get too onto an Eagles-Cowboys rant and everything. We always start with Jason and your top stack of the week. What do you got for our daily fantasy followers out there?
First off, it's funny that you just mentioned Ike Reese because you know where he went to school, Josh?
I know where he went to school.
Michigan State University. Anyway, sorry to get sidetracked.
No, it's okay. You know, I brought that up specifically just to throw it out there and everything. I wasn't going to bring up Tom Brady. I went
Right,
like
exactly.
you know?
Exactly. So, number one stack of the week. There's a lot of value stacks this week. That's what I noticed when I was doing my research. My first one is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Cleveland Browns with an implied game total of 51. I like starting my lineup with Derek Carr. Who would have thought that would have been ever said by me? 24, 28, and 20 points the last 3 weeks. And that was against Buffalo, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. So 3 really good teams playing against a defense that's not quite as good this week. I really like that. At 5,500, that's a good value. I like coming back with Darren Waller. He's had at least 7 targets and 15 points in each of his last 3 starts. His price tag just seems too cheap at 5,600, so I think he's going to get elite value for a pass catcher, not just a tight end this week. And then I'm going to bring it back with Kareem Hunt. He's one of the few bell cows that are left at this point right now. I think this is a pretty good matchup for him. Teams really run against Las Vegas pretty well. He's really only had one bad game this year, and that was against Pittsburgh, which obviously limits everybody pretty much in the run game. So he should see about 20 touches. He's the red zone back for that team. So I really like that lineup. That leaves you with 53.33 per player, which is more than most weeks. So you should be able to build a pretty good lineup.
Is there still any question marks about Kareem Hunt playing this week? Because I know when I was starting out and all, there was like a day or two ago, he did have a question mark tag next to his name.
He still does. He's still questionable officially. He did practice, though, today, I believe. So it's a good sign. I don't see any reason that he misses this week.
That's good. All right, so that's actually a really good stack. I really like that. Actually, in my season-long fantasy league, I've got Deshaun Watson on bye this week. So I actually picked up Derek Carr. I streamed him to be my quarterback this week. So, I do like that stack and all. What would be your next most important or favorite stack that you're looking at?
It's kind of another off the radar one. He was off the radar at the beginning of the year, but Burrow's been pretty damn good so far. So I'm going to start with, first off, it's Cincinnati against Tennessee. Implied game total of 53.5. I'm going to start with Joe Burrow, 6,200. The dude's just been balling. I mean, he has been really, really good this season. I like them as an underdog, especially because he's going to throw the ball 50 times, most likely. Believe it or not, I'm going to pair him with A.J. Green. 11 and 13 targets the last 2 weeks. It seems like they've kind of figured out how to use him a little bit in the passing game. You really can use Boyd, Higgins, or Green, I think, in that stack. All of them are good options. I just like Green because it's 4,500. I think it saves you some money. I'm going to bring it back with the second highest priced running back at Derrick Henry. He's going to get a lot of touches in this game. I think they're going to try to run the ball down Cincinnati's throat, and they're probably going to be ahead. So that stack leaves you with 52.17 per player to build the rest of your lineup. Again, that's a pretty high number, so you should be able to smash some good plays.
I'll be honest. I kind of just stopped paying attention to A.J. Green. He's just one of those guys. Everybody's talking about the other receivers in Cincinnati. T. Higgins as a rookie, and no, T. Higgins. Sorry, that's the wrong team there. I'm mixing up my names there. But yeah, no, I've totally forgotten about A.J. Green, and yeah, you're right on it. Joe Burrow there.
I kind of did too. It's funny. I was looking at the targets, like the list of everybody's targets that they got in the past few weeks, and I was almost shocked to see that he's got 11 and 13 targets the past 2 weeks. But yeah. I'll take that at 4,500 all day.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. So when I'm struggling, and I've been struggling in fantasy and gambling the last couple of weeks. I will admit I'm not having a good run the last couple of weeks. The thing I start to go for, and I don't know if this is a good theory or not. The thing I look at if I'm using DraftKings or FanDuel, I go to their defenses first, and I go down to the bottom of the screen and see who are the bottom 3 defenses that they have ranked. And that's where I start to build my stacks around. So the bottom 3 defenses rated this week with DraftKings are the Jets going up against KC, the Bengals, Tennessee, and the Vikings, Green Bay. Obviously, you like the Bengals going up against Tennessee, but do any of those 3 games really stick out to you as a good target to look at if you're basing it off of that philosophy?
You know what? I actually think you could use Tennessee in the stack as well. I love Tannehill. I love playing Tannehill this year. His price has finally crept up a little bit, which it should have a long time ago. But I think you can easily stack Tannehill with probably, either the tight end or what's the receiver? Why am I drawing a blank? Brown? AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. Yep.
He's like the fifth best
their third string wide receiver. Humphreys has had a couple good games this year. If you're looking that way, I love Jonas Smith this week. I was looking at Tennessee. I was looking at Tannehill, Jonas Smith, and then I wasn't really sure where else I was going to go in that stack. Actually, I would like that. I just thinking off the top of my head, you're going Tannehill, Jonas Smith, and then throwing AJ Green on the back end of that game. I think that would be something based off of what you're saying. That would be a pretty good. Yeah, it would be a pretty good way to go there.
And it's hard not to like Mahomes this week too against the Jets. Everybody's worried that they're gonna blow him out, obviously, most likely, but they're gonna have to score points somehow, and he's probably gonna be involved in that point scoring. So I like him.
We'll get into the gambling end of it, but I know that game is a game that Josh is looking at also. So we'll touch on that. I liked Mahomes and Rodgers all year for the most part, but I just think when they're going up against those kind of defenses, they're intriguing, but on the flip side, there are 2 guys going up against the Jets and the Vikings that are going to have such high ownership percentages that I'm kind of scared away from them. That's why I'm looking at that Tennessee Bengals game a lot. I know that. Oh, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say I have one more point too with fantasy. Last week I was touting DK Metcalf as being a really smash play. I put him in my late game swap spot in the flex spot, basically, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate the importance of doing that. I was going into that Sunday night game not cashing in 4 or 5 lineups that I made last week. I literally had 4 lineups with Metcalf in there. I swapped Lockett in, who was much lower owned, in all 4. He put up 52 points or whatever it was. I cashed in every lineup. So the importance to do that and to monitor your teams and see what you need. If you're cashing already, it's okay to play the chalk guys. But if you're not cashing, you got to find that lower priced option, even if you're leaving a lot of money on the table and hope that they smash. Obviously, it doesn't work like that every week. Your smash spot's not going to put up 50 points.
Was that 53 points? Wasn't that like one of the 4 highest daily fantasy scores of all time or something like that?
He had 15 catches.
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane.
Hey, the Calvin Ridley for the Lockett trade paid off for me last week. That won me my matchup in All About the Birds fantasy league this week. So no, that was really, really good, and that's really good advice because a lot of people don't pay attention to those late game swaps like that. So as always, we always have to touch on the Eagles. I know the Eagles are the late game, so there's a lot of single game plays with that. Sometimes you can play them in your things. Are the Eagles at all against the Cowboys? Anybody that intrigues you in a fantasy value this week? And on the flip side, how much value do the Cowboys lose by having Ben DiNucci from James Madison as their starting quarterback this week?
You pretty much can't play the Cowboys as far as I'm concerned. Zeke he's been struggling not only with the quarterback situation, but the line. Their offensive line is so banged up. You pretty much can't trust any Cowboys at this point. I like the Eagles passing game in that one, honestly. I think they're gonna obviously anybody can score on Dallas. So they're probably going to put up a lot of points, and I don't see Dallas being able to compete in any way. Obviously, Zeke's going to get a lot of touches, but his price point's always so high that he's never going to be a smash play anymore.
Yeah, which is hard to imagine because he was a top 5 fantasy pick by most players out there, and he's pretty much been written off. And you can't go with CeeDee Lamb, you can't go with Amari Cooper. It's just it's insane. But I don't know if you guys remember this. I mean, as a Lions fan, you might remember the Vikings when they had to start Joe Webb for a few games many years ago, and they beat the Eagles on the last Tuesday night game before this year. So there's a lot of Eagles fans that think Joe Webb 2.0 is happening with Ben DiNucci, that he's just going to come out and light the Eagles up and just throw the ball all over us and all. So I've
never even heard of the guy until this week, so that tells you something.
We've been making jokes about his name all week long on all different networks and all different shows and all. So so how about the Eagles then in that game? Are any of the Eagles really anybody that you would consider playing against Dallas's really beat up defense? Yeah,
I like their passing game. Really, obviously we've seen what Wentz has done the past few games. I like stacking him with probably Fulgham. I would say would be my. Obviously, that's not really going out on a limb, but
no.
Yeah, he's by far their best receiver, obviously at this point. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's really. I mean, it's obviously proven that he's no flash in the pan. It wasn't just a 1 week, wonder thing. They have a good connection. He catches everything that is thrown his way.
Right, for sure. What's Goddard's status going to?
He practiced this week. They haven't said whether he'll play, but if he does play, it'll be very limited role. Not to really worry about him till after the bye. Jalen Reagor, also the rookie. He's practicing. He's actually expected to suit up for the game. But on the flip side, again, nobody's expecting much from him other than, a handful of plays just to get a little bit of a rhythm back before, the stretch run that's coming up. But yeah, that's the fantasy end. Anybody dropping your comments? We don't have a single person. We're competing with too many shows tonight here. Nobody's tuning in and everything. So it's just us, and we're hoping for the views later. So we'll dive right into the gambling end of it then. Waiting for those comments. I do have to say, Cody Parkey ruined me last week in gambling. I had a great parlay that I was perfect on. And then, do you know what I'm talking about there with Cody Parkey? When they scored Cleveland that touchdown at the end of the game with 11 seconds left, I turned it off, didn't even watch the extra point kicked, thought I won that parlay. The next day I woke up, my account was not credited, and I freaked out when I saw the box score that Cody Parkey missed that extra point. So that was the worst thing in the world to wake up to in the morning and all. So we've got to start all over again this week and everything. I got your list of plays in front of me, and I actually like a lot of them. What are you looking at this week here, Josh?
Yeah, and well, and just to elaborate on the kicker thing, as people get more and more and more into gambling, you will hate kickers more and more and more as time goes on, because especially if you're a big over guy like I am, and missed field goals absolutely kill you in anything gambling. So missed field goals, mixed extra points, all that kind of stuff. So.
So you say you're an over guy, but let's talk about your first game on the list that you sent me. What did you pick in that game?
I texted Jay today, and I said that this is a very uncharacteristic week for me. Two things that are very uncharacteristic. One, I'm taking the Jets, which we'll get into.
Hey, Johnny, I like that. That was one of Johnny's locks of the week. So we can get into that though.
Two, I'm taking an under. So we'll start there. So the first game that I really like, I have 2 bets down on that. I really, really like Steelers plus 3.5. I actually kind of like them to win that game outright. Yeah. A lot of it has to do with, I think the Ravens are a good team. Don't get me wrong. I do not think that the Ravens are as good as a team as they were last year. They have not looked the same as they did last year. And I think a lot of people are expecting that same team, and you're not getting it. The Steelers right now, I mean, the way that they're playing, it's hard to bet against them right now. And the way that defense is playing, that kind of goes into, why I'm taking the under in that game. I mean, you have 2 teams that are, in the top 10 in, total defense. Ravens Steelers is always that kind of, grind it out, smack you in the mouth kind of game. The Ravens offense, neither offense really is built for, those big, high scoring, pass happy, kind of thing. They're more, I guess you could say kind of old school in their approach, as opposed to some of these other teams. So that's
Can't just say, you just got to throw it in the comment. At least we got a second comment on the show.
So anyway, that's the game that I'm really focusing on this week with those 2 bets.
No, that's really good. I agree with you 100% that the Ravens, they're not a bad team at all. They obviously beat the Eagles this year. I got to see them firsthand. They're a really good team, but they're not the team that they were last year. I don't want to say Lamar Jackson has regressed, but he's just not. I don't know. The connection with Mark Andrews is good. It's not great like last year. Mark Ingram isn't running like he was last year, and they still have no wide receivers really. Weren't they the team that just picked up Des Bryant?
Yep.
So, I mean, they're really desperate if they're pulling for a guy that hasn't played in the league in 2 years. So I definitely agree with you on that a lot. And I agree with you actually on the outright. I would almost bet the money line on the Steelers in that game.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I actually do have a bet down on that money line. Some money lines I like to publish, some money lines I don't like to publish. If we're being honest right now, but I'll play 2 or 3 money lines a week from an underdog that I really like, and that's one of the first ones that I put down, just because that's a game that I could very easily see the Steelers winning. So,
I mean, we do have a fantasy question real quick to jump back. Adam, my buddy here, he's asking, should he bench Cooper and Lamb this week? Do you bench both of them in fantasy if you have them on your team, or maybe just one of them? I don't know. The only thing I'm going to say is Darius Slay, if I'm not wrong, didn't he lock up Amari Cooper really, really well last year or 2 years ago in Detroit?
I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. I would roll the dice with Lamb before Cooper. I'd be scared to play either one of them, but I think Lamb is the bigger, has a potential for a bigger play. But yeah, if you have better options, I would go elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. Yeah, you might want to look at what you got there because it's not going to be a high scoring affair on the Cowboys end of things. All right, what's your next game of the week there?
So the next one that I really like is the Titans minus 5.5. I do think that the Bengals are a gritty team. But I think that the Titans are one of the most, if not the most, overlooked team in the NFL right now. People just really aren't paying attention to them. I think that line of 5.5 is just a little bit too low for that game. I do think it's going to be a high scoring game. I believe last I looked, I think the over under was at like 53 and a half, something like that. It's a little bit, too high for me. I do like the Titans to cover that game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love the fantasy implications more than the betting implications on that game. But yeah, no, it's smart. And we got to get into the one that Johnny loves this week, and I just don't know about the +20 in the Jets.
I love it too. So I'm going to try to explain why I love it. Because
he says you can't bet against a team that's getting +20. You have to bet for him. But then I say, but it's the Jets. So
right. So the kind of the theory behind this bet, not only it's 20 points and it's the NFL, you can't not take 20 points, but it's even a little bit deeper than that. Most of the professional cash right now is on the Jets, and I would expect most of the professional cash to be on the Jets, probably the rest of the season. They've played so poorly that they've kind of played themselves into these huge lines every week. And those huge lines every week are going to be really, really tough for the other team to cover, week in and week out. I know what people are saying. It's like, it's the Chiefs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But to be honest with you, like, the Chiefs are another team that they don't look quite the way that I would expect them to. And they've had some tough games against some teams that they probably should not have. And it's almost like they're playing to the level of their competition. Like they go out to they'll play the Ravens and they look like the best team in the league. And then they go play, somebody else that they should beat easily. I believe it was the Chargers was the one that gave them the tough game.
That's not as easy as a game as you think, because that AFC West.
I agree.
They always, they're right there with the NFC East and the Eagles and their rivalries. They're always close games. So I don't look at I agree with what you're saying about the Chiefs. I'm just not, I knew that game personally, that one with the Chargers would be a close game. Hey, Johnny, he's talking about your Jets. He loves the Jets +20. Loves the Jets +20 this week.
Hey, me and Johnny can make some good cash this week, putting our money on the Jets.
All right, you have one more game that you're putting on your article, which, by the way, the fantasy and gambling articles will be out. I don't know. Are you guys going to have them out tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Or Saturday? Yeah, tomorrow afternoon sometime. So check them out. They'll break down all the games and everything that they're talking about tonight and more, aatbirds.com. So your fourth game.
Yeah, and just to, about the article. So, yeah, the article will be out for gambling will be out tomorrow. And you're also going to have this week a little bonus article that should become a recurring thing here. Is I'm also going to break down, some of the Big Ten football action for all the Penn State fans out there. Kind of mix it up a little bit, get some Big Ten action out there too.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that'll love to see that.
Yeah. So the last game, Raiders +2.5. That's the other one that I like. I like them to win that game outright as well. Money line right now is +125. I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I've said that before, obviously, on this show. I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I especially don't trust Baker Mayfield when he doesn't have, Odell Beckham, his best weapon. That's just a game, that, it just screams to me to take the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the Raiders there too, but I'm actually different on Baker Mayfield. I actually think I could trust him more without OBJ there, because OBJ is someone you have to try to force the ball, or he's got that reputation of being a troublemaker, so to say. And so with him not there, Baker Mayfield could potentially relax and just spread the ball around and not worry about getting the ball every play to OBJ and all. So I actually, because I was really close in my season-long fantasy league, whether I was picking up Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield as my quarterback this week, and I went with Carr. But it was kind of a tough choice there for me because without OBJ, I don't know. I'm intrigued by the Browns a little bit.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I actually agree with what you're saying. My only concern is outside of Jarvis Landry. Who is he really going to throw the ball to? I mean, his second option is Donovan Peoples-Jones, which
Higgins
being a Michigan guy, he's Peoples-Jones looked good last week, but he's not really a guy that I'm really trying to trust. To try to fill those kind of shoes. But no, I definitely get what you're saying, as to, not trying to force the ball to, your prima donna guy that, needs it in order to be happy.
All right. Well, I had 3 other games. Obviously, the Eagles will close with that after this, but 2 other games I was looking at this week. I'd love your thoughts on. I'm sure you'll talk about them in your article tomorrow also. But the Bucs versus the Giants, 10.5-point favorites there for the Buccaneers. And they are just playing on fire. And then the Chargers-Broncos game. Chargers are -3 at this point.
Yeah, so the Bucs-Giants game, I mean, it's tough for me just because, I've been betting against the Giants, and they've kind of burned me because they've played just well enough in some of these games. And it's really tough. But like you said, the Buccaneers are rolling right now. Right now you've got, let me see here real quick. Let me check my notes. Yeah. So right now, I mean, to be honest with you, I would 10.5 is a lot of points. But with the way that the Buccaneers are playing right now, I mean, I'd have a hard time not taking them. My only concern is just, the injuries that, they've been dealing with, but they've been dealing with that all season. So, it's nothing new. And then the
Chargers Broncos game. Again, it's a close division game, just like the Chargers Chiefs. I love those close division games like that. The spread, I wish the spread was a little bit different, but Justin Herbert is playing out of his mind right now. And he's got a lot of momentum. And I think that's a game that a lot of people are going to jump on because of how he's playing. But it's a game that, unless the spread changes a little bit, I think people have to stay away from. It's just a game that intrigued me because of the matchup.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. So I'm looking right now, and the line I'm showing currently is -3.5.
Okay, so it actually went up. I wrote these down last night when I was doing the show.
Yep. It went up 0.5 point.
Wow.
Right now you're seeing almost all of the public betting right now on the Chargers, and you're seeing a slight lean on the professional cash on the Chargers, which is bumping that line up a little bit. 3.5. So 3.5 points. I believe the Broncos are home, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
They are. So 3.5 point home underdog is kind of like the ultimate like bookie trap if you believe in that type of stuff. So I personally don't. But if you believe in that kind of thing, it screams like a trap to take the Chargers. But with the way that Herbert's playing right now, and the Broncos, they just do not look good on offense. Even going on the road into Denver, push come to shove, I'm going to take the Chargers in that game.
You mentioned something there with the trap and stuff like that. And I did want to, before we touch on the Eagles, I wanted to ask you a question. And it's a question that I'm facing right now, but it's also a question that I'm sure a lot of bettors or amateur bettors face on a regular basis. You go on a losing streak, so you start reaching and you start chasing the money and all. What is the best piece of advice you can give to a gambler or a bettor, or like I said, an amateur that's betting that's gone on a short losing streak or a long losing streak, like in my case and everything, and to not necessarily get off the schneid, but to not lose faith, but maybe turn their season around a little bit?
My biggest advice in that situation is put your wallet away. So what people tend to do in that situation is they tend to overextend themselves. They tend to bet games that they wouldn't normally bet. And that's ultimately just going to usually end up with you being more and more in the hole. So my advice to that is, like, I have a system, and with that system, I'm expecting to get, over 50% of my bets correct, as close as I can get to 60% or at 60%. I'm very happy. So, I don't try to reach for things when I'm struggling. I just stick to that system. And if you have enough belief in your abilities in the system that you have, over time, that's going to all even out. It's sounds cliche, but like it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have bad weeks. You're going to have bad,
seasons,
3-4 weeks in a row.
You can have a bad season.
Exactly.
I know. I've been betting for a long time, and I know I've had plenty of great seasons and plenty of bad seasons.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to become rich off of it, but I know that what I'm going through right now, a lot of people that don't have experience are going through. Like I bet a bunch of different, player prop parlays and different things on the Monday night game last week because I was frustrated and I was just chasing the money, as I always say. And that's not like me normally because I stick to my system, but it's something that people really need to understand. And also the good point about not extending your wallet. I have a certain amount for the season, and then once that's gone, even if it's gone by week 7, I'm done for the season. That's it for me.
Yep.
You know what, too? I think it's pretty much the same way in fantasy, too. I think the same people do the same exact things. You got to have a process, and you got to trust your process. I do the same thing for football and golf every single week. I look at the same stats. I have the same process. Some weeks I lose. I lost a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks in a row badly, but then I come back the next week. You make it a little bit, chip away at it. You don't want to say, okay, last week all 5 of my lineups didn't cash. I'm going to play 10 this week. That's not the way to do it. Kind of what Josh is saying along the same lines.
No, it's good. It's, we give the picks of the week and all, but to give that theory and those ideas to the listeners, that's really important to do too. So using that whole process, we got a bold prediction. Johnny and his bold predictions and everything. Boston Scott over 100 all-purpose yards. That's not really bold. 100 yards is nothing all-purpose. Maybe rushing it is. Touchdown, higher tower touchdown. Yeah, they're not really bold. They're like against the Cowboys defense, pretty. You know
what? Johnny last week called Kyle Allen though. He was.
I don't even know
him the whole week.
What was his final stat line, Kyle Allen, last week? I love the Washington defense. I stacked a mini stack with the Washington defense and Gibson, their running back. I wasn't touching Kyle Allen, but yeah, Washington defense played really well fantasy.
Yeah, they did.
So the rule I always set for myself is never bet the Eagles. Okay. I don't know if it changed since last night. They were an 8.5-point favorite as of last night. The Cowboys, if I remember reading correctly, are 0-7 against the spread this year. Ooh. They've got nobody named Ben DiNucci, which is named after an Italian hoagie or something like that. Or
right.
I went to my Catholic school with in elementary school. I've got a load of jokes about Ben DiNucci and all. And I've been using a different one every night. It just screams play the game, but it's against my rules to play the Cowboys or play the Eagles, especially against the Cowboys. Do you have any gambling thoughts on that game? And please tell me to stay away, please.
I am going to tell you to stay away. So at this point in the week, the spread has moved too far for me to think it's playable. So every week, I look at the initial lines that come out. Those lines come out. Part of them come out on Monday for the teams that didn't play Sunday night and Monday night. But the vast majority of them, they'll come out Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, first thing. So the first thing I do is I look and I scroll through those lines, and if there's a line or anything that jumps out at me, I immediately jump on that. This game actually opened at 3.5 for the Eagles.
That low. Wow.
At 3.5, the initial line. So I actually jumped on that and I got that. So I do actually have the Eagles this week. But where the line sits right now, I'm going to tell you to stay away. It's moving in the wrong direction. There's no value to me. So my big thing is finding value in the line. And there's no value in that line, just because the Cowboys are just such an unknown this week. We all assume they're going to suck. We all assume that the Eagles are going to win by 30 points.
Yeah.
But you just don't know.
We all assumed that last week with the Giants and the Eagles, and that was a 1-point game down to the wire there. So
right, exactly. And you talked about Joe Webb earlier, and Jay will remember this. Aaron Rodgers would hurt, and Matt Flynn.
He made $100 million on that game.
Made a lot of money on that game. So you just don't know. And the last time seeing it, so the current line right now sits at 9.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It's just the line is just skyrocketing because just all of the money is on the Eagles. I would even argue that if it keeps getting pushed up by Sunday night, there may actually be a tiny bit of value in taking the Cowboys and the points.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong in that. I can't believe the lines. I mean, it's all based off the quarterback, Ben DiNucci, and that's where the line
100%.
And that all the money is pouring in on the Eagles. The people, I didn't even see it. I didn't check the lines right away this week like you do. And the earliest I saw it was at 6 or 6.5 points.
Yeah,
and 3.5 points. That's insane that it was that low and it's jumped that high. That's
it went from 3.5 to 6.5, and I would say less than 12 hours.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, it was 6.5 when I saw it. So yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's just I've got the rule: you stay away from the Eagles. But I'm so confident. Like I predicted last night, the Eagles win 27-10, and that just jumps out at me. That number is the right number, and I've been really close to the final score on every Eagles game this year. And if I'm that confident in the score, why not take the line? But again, back to the rule: if you have a rule set for yourself in gambling, you stick to it. And I broke that rule last week because I did bet the Eagles last week. So and it bit me, I bet the over in the Lions game too. That bit me in the ass. I don't know how the Lions and Falcons don't hit the over last week.
Right, exactly.
when Cody Parkey, the Lions, and the Eagles killed me last week.
Hey, Todd Gurley tried. He tried his best.
Yeah,
he did.
And Matt Stafford, man. I mean, I know it's not gambling or fantasy wise, but that last drive and that last touchdown pass he had there to win that game, that was
clutch.
That was clutch. He does not get enough credit for how good of a quarterback he really is.
There's
what's funny about that Matt Flynn game that we were talking about? Not only do I remember that game, but I remember the party that we were at the night before that game because that's how much that game sticks out in my memory.
Absolutely,
New Year's Eve, baby.
Absolutely.
New Year's Eve, man.
That's how much I remember that game.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if it was New Year's Eve the night before, I wouldn't remember the game then. So, Oh, man. Great show again, guys. Any other final points this week, fantasy or gambling-wise, guys?
I think fantasy-wise, just like I said earlier, just remember the late game swap. Have that be an option in your flex spot at all times. Whether you decide that you're going to play a running back or a receiver in that spot, keep it as a 4 o'clock game. Check to see how your lineups are doing around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then change those if you need to. Even if you're leaving a lot of money on the table, go with a lower-owned option that might be a boom play because it won't work every time, but it saves you sometimes.
When it hits, it hits.
When they put up 53 points, it works for you.
But I thought DK Metcalf should have gotten some fantasy points for that chase down tackle on the interception.
Yeah, that was
I think
awesome.
that's a little unfair that he didn't get something for that
Right.
tackle there. He should have gotten a tackle point or something. Any
Sure.
final points there, Josh?
No, I mean, just like you were saying, I really like that you brought up, when things are not going well, just stick to the plan. I've had a few weeks in a row now where, I'm sub 500. And a lot of people get discouraged by that, but I'm not, just because I know it's a whole season. These 3 weeks aren't going to make my season. I've got a certain amount of money allocated to each week. So, I'm not digging back into my pocket to get more money because I'm doing bad. I'm going to ride it out, stick with the plan. And in the end, more times than not, it works out if you do that.
It's bankroll management. It's
Absolutely.
it's poker 101. I dabbled in a little semi-professional poker there.
Yep.
Bankroll management 101 right there.
Yep. That is number one important,
In
thing when
fantasy
it comes
and gambling,
Fantasy too, yeah.
in anything you're doing that's involving money like that. Bankroll management. Is so
Absolutely. And I'm a poker player from way back. I spent in my younger years, in my 20s. I mean, I spent 5 nights a week at the poker table, down in the casinos. So and that's the key. It's like you go down there with whatever your money is for that day, and you lose. You know what I mean?
To use a poker term, don't go tilting. With like I did last week. Dropping a few extra bets on a Monday night game that I just knew was terrible, but I did it anyway because I just, that Cody Parkey, I'm just going to say it's Cody Parkey's fault.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's 100% his fault.
Well, and a gambler on tilt is way worse than a poker player on tilt, because at least a poker player on tilt, you can see multiple hands, whatever. A gambler, if he's on tilt, it's like, I'm going to put down, $100 on this one game that I don't have confidence in just because I need to do something.
Yeah.
And it's like, then it's all gone,
Just like that. Yeah. You have no chance to come back from it then.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got today then. Right, guys?
Yep.
Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Again, another great fantasy and gambling show. We're here every Thursday night at 8:30. Make sure you're sharing these videos and retweeting them on Twitter. Bring your comments. We got a few comments tonight. One of my buddies is competing with me tonight for views, and he probably stole a few of our followers tonight. I'll make sure to call him out on that later. But as always, I got to thank everybody. We got to thank All About the Birds Network. We got Johnny. We got Jeff. Obviously, Jason and Josh here doing a great job. Adam, thanks for checking in as always. I appreciate that. Hopefully you do well with your choices over CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Always special thanks to Last Out Media, Heat Ratio, and the Athletes Hub, who share all our shows on all their networks. As always, check out aatbirds.com for Josh and Jason's articles that'll be going tomorrow live for all their information on all the games. And again, I got to do it. It's Eagles-Cowboys week, I can't just say go Birds. I'm going to say go Birds. I'm going to play one of Johnny's hype up videos. Then we're going to go off the air. So everybody have a great night and go Birds.
What comes to mind when you see the star logo?
Well, I have this disdain for that whole star thing because in my era they had the stadium with the opening when they said that God left it open so that he could watch his favorite team.
You can't help but to love us.
And just this whole talk of them being America's team, and how is it that they become America's team?
I've been going against that star for a long time. Even when you see somebody's wearing that thing, somebody has a cowboy star on, it makes you just feel, yeah.
It's sort of a learned behavior. Once you get drafted to the Eagles and you're here long enough, you quickly learn how important it is to beat this team.
I think this game's a little chippy. This has been a tense physical struggle between these two rivals.
My first Cowboys game as a rookie, coming out of the tunnel, we always came out in position groups, and I'm looking up into the face of Harold Carmichael, and all of these big tears are welling up in his face, and so I tightened up my chin strap a little bit tighter.
They give it to Scott, and they stop him again! They stop him again! Goes into the end zone, intercepted! Intercepted! The Eagles win! The Eagles win! The Eagles win! Westbrook rolls down at the 1-yard line. It's stripped away. Touchdown!
Kids growing up in Philadelphia, it's something that you grow up with. If you're a Philadelphian, when I got to the Eagles, I just kind of fell in line.
You watch people react the week of the games. You can tell when we're about to play the Cowboys because everybody's so fired up. The things that they say about Dallas, you see in the little stickers on the back of cars. It's exciting for the city when we're playing Dallas.
That quote-unquote term, America's team, that crawls under all of our skin, considering the birthplace of America is right here in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.